Hello, everyone, and hello. Welcome to our Sunday stream. It's Anubis 3100 here. Hope you guys are enjoying your Sunday. Um, we're gonna be. I'm just gonna wait a little bit until some more people start to funnel in, but then I think we are good. Um, we'll just give it a few more 5 minutes or so. How are you guys doing today? Hopefully it's good. I went swimming today in Canada's cold, freezing waters. It was enjoyable, but my Egyptian ass can't handle the waters here. Still, it's still very cold. Somebody on Twitter was like, "That's what you get for glacial lakes," and I was like, "I'm allowed to dream, sir. Let me peacefully dream." Um, Here, I hope my audio is not too low. Um, we'll be starting in about 2 minutes or so. To those listening, also, if you have works that you are thinking of buying and you want to get an opinion on, you can also submit those. Um, I'll try to go as many submissions as we get. Um, there aren't that many so far, which is good. We get to go in depth into some of them, and then if some start to come in, they'll be added to the list as well. But yeah, I already have the works up here, and some of them do have an audio factor, which I am excited for. So um, I'm definitely looking forward to these. I'm a fan of the audio mix with visuals, especially in NFTs. It's pretty fun. All right. In 1 minute, I'm gonna get some water. Oh, hello, Metakey. Good to have you. Welcome to the Sunday stream. I hope, um, I think it's Monday for you guys right now. So I hope your Monday is going well. Um, it's Sunday over here. I just came back from the lake. Still cold. Water's still cold. But anyways, it's time to get going. And so I'm just gonna lower this a little bit, and we will look at the first work. And so I have them in order from where Ego shared them. And so Ego, I'll read the messages if they have any context um, real quick. Introduce the NFT channel to this guy. And so this is, I believe, a project or a person that Ego introduced, and so I have their work right up here. It's very interesting. I'll show you the original tweet because there's a little cool flipping video um, going through all the images. It is Monday morning for the Metakey team. Hey, I'm getting my times right. And so I went straight to the OpenSea, and we're gonna look through some of these. I'm just gonna open quickly 3 or 4 that are different. The 3D one looks cool also. And oh, real quick, this is the one this is a very catchy one also. And we'll go through there real quick. Alright, so one thing I usually do, first thing I always do when I look at this is I new tab it, always. It's a joke, but you get to see the IFPS folder sort of. Generative PFP. Exactly. Hey, Francis Bacon reference. There we go. For those who are listening and who do not know, Francis Bacon is a British painter, a really good British painter. Um, Passed away now, but his works are insane. There are a few in Canada, um, but we'll look at this. So this is right off the bat. All of these are digital. This one is clearly digital, um, but there's something interesting happening in these that I like, and we'll see if it's present in all of them. Did that open the whole IFPS? No, that did not. And so, alright, cool. And so, if I could zoom in more. So, looking through, with my experience with digital painting programs, some of them try to emulate the actual look of oil painting and such, and so this sort of does it, but through textures, which is very nice. Looking through all of these, as you zoom in, it's sort of going for except for this one, it's sort of going for a wood print, sort of wood block print type of texture, ink block if you call it. There are different names for it, and it's pretty successful in it. Funny enough, I'll reset this real quick. Out of all these, if you look at this essentially compared to these, this is personally I would say this is a little bit more successful, just because it doesn't rely too much on color, and it gets the image, like the avatar sort of emotion image, quite through effectively and quickly, and it's also the most identifiable image, right? It's a image we've seen in pop culture many times, so your eye immediately picks up on it. These actually, funny enough, the more I mull them over into my mind, they resemble talk blocks, claymation characters, as if they're 2D versions of them, which is really interesting. If you don't know what this is, Talk Block is a really amazing artist in the space who does these sort of clay characters, and so immediately you can sort of see some similarities. I really think these are cool. With the recent launch of PFP projects, people have been quoting the B-Gans, the bastard Gan punks description as punks that have soul, because of they're so colorful. And actually, these are very different, specifically when you look at Chimpanzee Active. Wow. These are actually very, the more, as you look into it more, these are pretty distinctive actually. And so, yeah, I just want to zoom in on this. That's very nice. As you can see here, the most visually, personally, the most visually successful work is the one that is either one color only or a two color one. These are extremely appealing, don't get me wrong, but man, these are to me at least, completely more effective. Are these generative? We'll look through the description. So only 10,000. Alright, no description. Website. Alright, so it's just the artist. We'll check the Instagram, and we'll check, I don't know what that is. Part of me, I don't think they're generative, and I'll say that just because they're too artistic to be sort of generative. Like, so Bored Ape Club is generative, but it's also hand drawn. But the way it's generative is a little bit different, and you'll be able to tell board, if I can spell it correctly, you'll be able to tell the difference in what a generative is like immediately, right? And so what happened in something like this is, personally, I believe, is these assets are hand drawn um, on single layers in Photoshop, and so essentially the generative program can pick from multiple files that have just, cowboy hat, rainbow teeth, and then just combine them together. But something like this, the the mixing, right? The attempted blending between the red, sort of darker red that fades into the black here as well, gives it far more a hand drawn. No, well, like it's still digital. It kind of seems like they were generated and then touched up. They, yeah, actually, th it is the same template. So if you click here, the figure does not change. I can't highlight very well with this, but around here, it doesn't change. And the biggest indicator is the transparent spots. Well, they don't disappear. So they either could be generative, or the person has created a layout that is just trying to paint on, that paints on top. I'll quickly look at the minting, how it's minted, because that can also tell us if they're minting individually, then they're actually hand drawing. Listings, but it's still, I really think it's a really nice artistic project. Um, the style is very capturing. It's so different from the other PFP projects out there, legitimately. Especially these, like this. Let me, I'm trying to see list. Where is the mint? Null address. So I think they're minting these individually. So I don't know if it's a generative project per se, where it's generative through code, but it is different. It's using the same template with the artist painting on top. 10,000 for that. It really could be generative. Metakey, you might be right. I do have trouble believing that the artist will paint 10,000 of these and mint them. But here, I'm actually really curious about the 3D one too. It is a nice one. It's not very advanced, and so when I say it's not very advanced, that's not a bad thing, right? It just shows that the person is clearly far more oriented towards 2D images and art styles than 3D. And what could clue into that is sort of the detail of texturing, and the detail of sculpting. And so if you look at the texturing here in comparison to some of the texturing done by collectibles, by artists doing collectibles like Mark, who does Habibis, right? There are certain imperfections that surfaces have that, as a 3D artist, as you develop, you start to include more into your work to make it look more realistic. Because this can be very realistic, but even in a real world setting, some difference it wouldn't be that sleek and that clean, right? But other than that, it's still a very good project. It is a little bit stylistically, well, it's completely stylistically different. The tying things between it, you like the style of these. Just unfortunate that being stylistically distinct doesn't often seem to resonate in the space right now with PFPs. I agree with that, and I really think that stuff like this is gonna be slept on for a while until people start looking for the the wildly different PFP projects. I know this because on Twitter you see everybody's talking about gutter cats and sewer rats and all that, and everybody's forgetting about um, begans, and begans are slowly going up in value, but also because they're so different than any other generative project out there. They're so colorful, right? It's some of them look completely messed up in a way that you're like, that shouldn't work as a PFP, but I dig it, right? And so some of the stuff might be slept on. However, th- they do look like they are getting some sales. Um, Hopefully, also, ego sharing that helps them, because this is very cool. Um, I really do. This is very cool. Um, you know, it's actually so stylistically different, and even this, right? This has the ability to be different from Habibi's and such, just because as it starts to implement more features from here, right? So if you get the roughness in these figures into this, it would also look very cool. King James says, where in the Discord could I post an NFT for critique? The Duat residency um, chat. So Duat art residency, it's in the depth, the depths area of the Discord channels on the right, right above private owners deck. If you don't own a Metakey, you don't. That's not there. It's right above the verify stuff, I believe. Um, but this is a very cool project. Um, my only hope would be is just the 3D version of this would be brought a little bit closer to the stylistic choices and aesthetic choices made here and in these, just because this is like the similarities are there, but it's still too different that I'm having trouble tying each together, right? If somebody were to come to me and show me this and then this and say with no information about it whatsoever, and would be like, is this the same artist? I would tell you no. Until I saw like more and then dug deep, right? Just because this on its own isn't as close to this, for example, right? It's close to this because it's following the same figure here, right? Um, but otherwise, this is actually very cool. I really like this. Shout out to Ego for sharing this. This is actually wild. Um, we will move on. Yeah, look at that. Even the red, just a little hint of red, just makes it so striking that this is a PFP. This would be cool. I guarantee you, somebody with hot thoughts on crypto Twitter would put this as their Twitter profile. Even this. Um, all right, and so the next work was posted by Blockjack. I looked at these a little bit earlier, and I really think these are cool. Are these generative? We'll find out. Main object is an exploration of emotion and meaning through geometric shapes, signs, and symbols, harmony and symmetry, space and dimensions. And they have a website. Oh, alright. And so let's go to Twitter and Instagram real quick. So I could maybe these are generative? Oh wow. Whoa. Yo, Blockjack, what are you doing? What are you doing not sharing these? What the hell? Yo, what do we King James, I don't have a ton of NFTs minted yet. Oh dude, don't worry about it. With the space is going, with the pace of how the space is going, you have time. But wow. Alright, well I will critique Blockjack, wow. Blockjack wants me to critique, and then I'm actually going to take a look at his other art, because that's very interesting. And so, oh wow. So these, to me, immediately off the bat, give the illusion, well, not the illusion, give me the sense of a 3D render. And the only reason I say this is because some of the lighting in here is very realistically rendered, right? And then from my experience with 3D renders um, and stuff, you can tell when something is sort of noisy. Like the 3D render noise, you can sort of tell. And so that's what's telling me, that's what's informing that this is a 3D render. But holy cow, these are very nice. Let me zoom in more. Very subtle, like subtle gradients, right? The just black outline, and then even these, right? The circle fades, but then is completed, so you get two circles together with an inner. Oh, these are actually so. This work has a lot of things going well for it, actually. Um, Often we see 3D renders that are meant to be eye-pleasing and very simple, and that's actually hard to do, to create something that's simple yet completely eye-pleasing is hard. You can sit and try to do it, and it will mess with you, right? You'll be like, it's not looking right, it's not looking peaceful, it's not looking um, you know, like what's the description, like peaceful, or like it's not flowing right. It it doesn't feel right. And then with something like this, it's so simple, I think, because it's using geometric designs, right? um, I, this could be a geometric design of a circle. Sacred geometry, if you know it, it's you just draw shapes through compasses and stuff, and it can be very interesting. um, Look at the shadows, actually. Wow. So an exploration here. Let's look at the description again. Exploration of emotions, meaning 3 geometric shapes, science simple, harmony and space. Oh, I see the difference. Okay. Here, let's look at a few more. I need to think about this work a little bit more in my head. You can almost see these as they give off the illusion as sculptures, tiny little sculptures, that you can hold in your hand. Um, and this reminds me, is it Escher? MC Escher? MC Escher. Yeah. So some of these sort of infinite, well, not infinite, but I mean illusionary type depictions are, well, I really like these. Yeah, King Jesus, these are fucking nice. No, it's actually it reminds me of the work of MC Escher, but in 3D. And if you're not familiar with MC Escher, um, I'm not specifically talking about these. These are cool and all, but I'm talking about let's see, sticks, right? It sort of reminds me of stuff like that. Well, that's not MC Escher exactly, right? But he's the guy that sort of started this, you know, weird infinite, art style, and then it evolves, right? And then this is just, it's actually very nice. I can see what the artist means, blockjack, by harmony and symmetry, right? Because it's very peaceful, right? You look at this work and it seems very peaceful immediately right off the bat. It's also the light, right? It's not too harsh of a light. You're not getting solid shadows. You're not getting defining lines in a shadow. And if you don't know what I mean by that, is you're not getting, let's see, you're not getting I'm trying to find a picture of something with a hard shadow in it. um, why am I struggling to find a picture with a hard shadow in it? Wow. Okay, so stuff like these corners, right? They're clearly defined that you can block. That's a hard shadow, right? And the shadows here trail off. It's a very smooth gradient from the darkest, the blackest black. These make me smile. They do. From the blackest black to just pure white, and it's when a gradient is done effectively, it's very nice. And then you paired with the symmetry and the geometric shapes, you could, again, like, I could see these as sculptures. I could also see these as just moving, right? These could be infinitely. I can see these circles going down infinitely and new ones appearing, and these ones going down and new ones appearing, and this one coming forth, right, in depth, like forward in depth, right? Because these do very well at portraying depth. Wow, blockjack. These are insane. How? Oh, wow. Yeah, the more I look at them, like, they also convey a like a very definitive sense of movement within the work. Yo, peanut butter, what is up? Peanut butter in the house. Welcome, welcome. We're looking at the work of Blockjack. It's very nice. It's actually, I legitimately can see every single one of these pieces moving, and it doesn't need to move. That's how effective they are, because I'm good just looking at these and just imagining the movement because of how much it's conveyed already, right? I can see these. I keep moving my hands, and you can sort of see my hands, but I can see these receding backwards and getting bigger in layers, right? And then, wow. I'm looking forward to this. I will keep an eye out on this. I would say you should too. Not just for like collectible sake, just for art's sake. These are very nice. Um, wow. Ooh. Right. Wow. Even some of like the gradients, right? Like this goes dark and then white and then completely black, but it's just so nice. It's like this is flat, but it's protruding into depth in 3D space because these are overlaid on top of it and they're coming at an angle. Wow. Wow. I wish Blockjock was here, fuck. I need to get his thoughts. Alright, here. I actually wanted to look at his Instagram, because his Instagram showed these. And so, if you weren't sort of understanding what I mean by a sense of movement being portrayed through the work, look at that, right? These could be moving. These could be moving. This already gives you a sense of movement in space, as if they're coming at you or going away from you, depending on how you personally perceive it. This already in itself, right? Just because of the gradient, it leads your eye in, and then you're like, oh, and then you go to the other one. You see? Right? Wow. Like, even that there's no movement, your eye just moving through the work already just makes you imagine the work, even here. Wow. Alright. Alright, now we know Blockjock is a very sick artist who knows what the hell they're doing. Because these are insane. This is actually very nice. Wow. This could open up as if it's almost as if it's a flower opening up. Gorgeous. I agree. Wish I could create something like that. Yo, all it takes is honestly just practice. You just gotta pick what you like and you just gotta do it over and over. But wow. Wow. That's very nice. Well, yes, Metakey, these are Blockjack's work. These are insane. Here, let me show you something even better, right? If you thought these are cool, look at his Instagram. His Instagram's insane. I was going through with my mouse showing how your eye can get caught in a loop here without even knowing it, right? Just because of the gradients just moving back and forth within the work. It, I was saying on stream, like, why didn't Blockchalk share this? But these um, are beautiful, actually. Wow, serious divine geometry vibes. I couldn't agree more. It's actually, and I was saying earlier, they give off they effectively give off a very nice sense of movement, right? You don't need to see these move um, in sort of an infinite um, video, but they sort of give off the notion of movement. This is some platonic stuff right here. It's actually, I personally will be keeping an eye out on this. This is actually, there only 20 exist and only 2 owners, but like some, look at that. Insane. Insane. Wow. Um, Blackjack. I didn't know you got some hidden skills, some hidden moves. The man's like a little, he's a hidden boss. Oh, thank you, King Jesus. Took me 4 years of art critiques in university. Yeah. It's here. Let's find the object and look at it actually, real quick. It is. It's that one. It's so nice. And here is something cool that's happening here also. These are circles, right? But this sort of really, and I mean really, helps your eye just go zoop, there, there, and then your eye can travel across. But it's like you see this little loop here. It's actually, it has a lot of hidden talents. I'm starting to find that out right now. Holy cow! It's actually. It's actually. This is insane. Or hold on, is this not the work of Blockjack, or is this? I think. Now I'm confused. Who's is okay? No, main object is. Huh. Well, I'm just going to assume that this is Blockjack. Um, everything else, this. Yeah, let's double check. Where is the Twitters? May not. Okay, no, so it's not. These are really cool. I was under the impression this whole time that this was Blockjack's work. But it's not. This is main object. Okay. Never mind. But wow. So main object is actually Genesis collection. Here. Let's go look at the foundation works also. Oh wow. Okay. Hold on. I think we might be able to zoom in a little bit more here. Yeah. You know, just snap them up. Yeah, the man's got a hidden eye for art. Oh my god, there we go. There we go. Do you see how, wow, such smooth gradients. This is actually insane. Not a single hard shadow. Wow. Look at the noise texture. I haven't seen. Hey, there you go. Who knows? Who knows? Is it Blockjack's evil twin? Or not evil twin, they're just twin, I guess? Who knows? But wow! I need to see more. This is why you knew image tab. Not to save it, but just to be able to zoom in. Wow. You see that? So there is this sort of recedes in the back, but so subtly that you actually need to zoom in to see it end, right? This is the darkest part, but this is also the darkest part. There's a little subtle gradient here, subtle gradient there. Here it sort of blends here as well. Wow. And so an example of a hard shadow is this right here. You see how defined this line is right here? That's what I mean by a hard shadow, just as an example. So this one does have a hard shadow, but as you see, it doesn't remain very hard for very long. It smooths out, right? And then you get the light source right here. But you also it's got multiple light sources going. These guys are super nice. I need way more for that. This slow. These guys get a headshot. Use a handsome slice. Wait, who? Whose headshots? Metakey? That's what she said. Wow. But these are, alright, a new birth, a new creature, a new beginning, a new path, a new life. And so, earlier to what you said, Metakey, like divine geometry, there are definitely symbolism of some divine something, right? Elements of the divine in here. But wow. Alright, this is... Oh! So this is a change in materials. That's what she... Oh, peanuts. So as you can see here... You can see it also go back there. There's a little bit of difference in tone here. Smooth shadow. That seems like it's a little bit more textured. Yeah. Wow. So, this is funny enough. The way he's blocking off the color, like the shapes here, reminds me very much of like a cubist works, right? Of just how they block things. Not certain like. Here's the thing about cubist works, right? They don't necessarily have to be cubes, right? The whole point of cubist works is just they cube things. They put them into little blocks and try to simplify the image while abstracting it at the same time, right? And so people have taken the way cubed elements look and are now implementing them in their art, right? And so this immediately gives me sort of a cubist feeling right here. Oh. Okay, Brave, calm down. If I can... Oh, cool. Right here, right? Just because of how straight some of the angles are, immediately they give you off a cubist vibe, right? This is not a circle, right? And your eye immediately recognizes these are not circular shapes, right? Far more angular, except for the corners of the circles, right? But wow. Okay. Right, so main object, we have now found a new artist to keep an eye on. I will follow them, just because... Oh, these are not for sale. So, somebody might be able to pick some of these up. And these are really nice. Here, let me reset. These are really nice quality. Yo, smooth gradients are hard to pull off, and sometimes they can make or break the work, and here it is effective in every way possible. Why do you zoom in over there? There we go. that. You can tell that the light source is sort of from behind here. That's actually wild. Alright. This is very good art. This too. This is insane actually. Alright. To the next person. And so the next work that got shared was Overcome. So let's see what we think. Different styles. Pretty unique for me. Alright, so two different artists. Here, Overcome. A sequel to Change Your Stars holds several meanings. For starters, I'm overcome with joy. I am overcome with humility. I am overcome with all the feelings under the sun. Years of struggle and fighting to make a name for myself as an artist. Overcoming all the struggles and challenges that stood in my way. This is my passage to you. Keep fighting, never give up, and you'll overcome many challenges that may stand in your way. This is my thank you piece to my family, supporters, collectors, and community who have been there from the start. Alright, so this is a celebration piece by Break the Internet. I'm just gonna quickly go through I'm gonna go look through Break the Internet's work. Okay. So, a theme is starting to appear, right? And that's vaporwave, right? And so, I am a fan of vaporwave works. You can know vaporwave as a theme in play when the head of David starts to pop up, sort of. Right? This bust here. Just because, well, not that, but just because if you click on any vaporwave, right? If I go to YouTube, I'll show you the original starter for the vaporwave. It's actually, this will help whoever is interested into vaporwave culture, because vaporwave in itself has now evolved into a valid sort of mainstream art form, right? And so this is not the bust of David, this is not the face of David, but vaporwave has sort of taken this aesthetic, right? The Greek sculptures, the neon aesthetics, and has sort of started to use it. And so it's apparent here. We're focusing on Overcome, so I clicked on some of these. And so try to mint or not to mint. Okay. We'll just new tab that, and then Lucha Libre. Oh wow. Whoa! Okay, so that just destroyed my ear. Sorry about that, if that destroyed your ears as well. Okay. I mint, therefore I am. Alright, so I'll pause the music a little bit, and we will. Okay, so all of them have audio. So that's the sound of a machine turning on, I believe. This one has no sound. Alright. And this one. Wow. Okay. That's really in your face. Okay, so that's the work of another. Alright. And so immediately what I'm seeing here is the use of vaporwave elements, as said before, and also the use of popular theme, like pop culture elements, right? What I mean by that is the white and red sort of logo texting, right, has been massively popularized by, it's you can see it in the way Time writes their article, their logo, right? It's not the same font, but it's red on white, very distinctive, very eye-catching. and then Supreme, right? Supreme is probably the biggest thing we know when we see this. Um, and so the work is already tying popular culture into it by already using those certain colors and certain logos. Um, Even more when they use the Supreme font, right? Because that immediately lets you know, all right, there is sort of, it's the popular culture theme is here, as well as this is not fully developed there as an aesthetic yet, right? But the weird glitching, right? The RGB delay sort of is also sort of has slowly been developing. At least I've noticed it in the foreground, no, in the background of some art niches, specifically ones that are oriented towards digital art. A lot of people have been drawn to the glitchiness, um, TV staticky effect. Barbara Kruger. Oh, hello, Yekta. Welcome. So, for those listening, Yekta is one of the artists in our show, Barbara Kruger. Oh, and we got another inspiration. Oh, would you look at that? So, guess who Supreme got it from, I guess. Oh. I shop there 4 a.m. So this is actually goes deeper into popular culture than before, because these, um, Yekta, I don't know if you guys learned this about in your classes, but we learned about some of her work in um, postmodernist class, I believe, and so her Barbara Kruger's work is essentially making fun of sort of um, ad culture, uh, and so it became very popular because of how simplistic it is. It raised a lot of questions. People were mad. People were really mad, um, because of it's just like, how can you put a picture and put the letters, but it was breaking grounds in its conceptuality and addressing popular culture, number one, and in the case of Barbara Kruger, and also in this case too, is um, uh, the sort of capitalistic need for people, right? Yekta, thank you for the reference, because I completely forgot about her work. Your body. And here, for comparison, when I say, so is that where Supreme got it from? I don't know if that's where Supreme got it from, but I I can't spell well. And so it's the same font, actually. It is the same font. Do you think that the use of Christians give their some slogans with that kind of no? Not not really. Um, if it has a clear meaning, if it has a clear and definitive meaning, not really. The biggest example of that is, what is it? Uncharted. Uncharted 3's saying, what is it? Latin saying. Saying. They have it. Sic parvis manga, which translates to greatness from small beginnings, right? And so you have to walk when you're picking a slogan for something like that. You really have to you have to be careful that you're walking a line that can fall into a catchy sort of, we are the people, that sort of logo, but um essentially, like, a logo that already is in a different language does two things, right? In the case of this little saying right here, even though it's a game, right, it alludes to a sense of some sort of higher knowledge, just because the moment you see it, you recognize that's Latin. um, none of us know how to see none of us know how to read Latin, of course, right? And so it immediately alludes to that. But the use of it specifically in something like the Metakey project, I don't think so, right? Because we're messing with a digital realm, right? In the same sense that um, the artist is able to reutilize this image from Barbara Kruger, right? you should be able to sort of utilize that for the space, because the space definitely needs a sense of community, and it also needs something that brings those communities together, and having a saying that members are familiar with. It doesn't, like, you also don't have to care really about what the outsiders think of the saying, right? Because the saying is important to the Metakey members, for example, right? It should be important to the core and the people that are in it, and that slowly would inform the outside group, the people who are not in it, of how well it's doing, right? That's what I like to think, at least. Like when you guys announced it, it didn't seem like it was like a weird, banal thing. I was like, hey, that's actually pretty cool, and it also brings back the sense of guilds, right? Because I mean, for me personally, um, we have uh, we have art historical movements and such, but during the Renaissance, there used to be actual guilds, just like we used to have in video games. And so, for a Metakey guild with its own sort of slogan, works very well and fits a Renaissance type, a digital Renaissance vibe. If that makes sense. Hopefully, that makes sense. I hope. um, but this, right? So this work, back to this work, it's actually a lot more successful than you think it is, because it informs you of two things, right? It informs you of the reference. Um, it is sad. It is a little bit sad that the artist did not um, give us any reference to the original artist, but that's fine when you're dealing with conceptual work and such. Um, you can take some liberties that you sort of can't, especially when you're commenting on something. Um, but also, it not only informs you of that this work is popular, right? It's effective. It's catching your eye for the same reasons a 50 or 60-year-old work did, right? The use of colors. It's a very strong image, but also it informs you of other the thought process of other aspects in the market, right? Supreme shares the same design, red, white. It's literally the same font, right? Supreme is also known for stealing a bunch of their stuff, but that's irrespective of the matter here, right? So immediately, to me, it's a successful work. It also comments that on the new conundrum that artists are gonna have, right? Because before it used to be, I'll mint and I'll post my stuff online, and then maybe through that I'll sell my work. But now we're selling those stuff online, right? Those images that we're posting are sellable, right? And so the problem is now gonna change from why am I not being discovered, right? To now it's like I need to mint, right? That's one aspect of it. Like we also don't know how artists are gonna deal with this. This is technology that's been around for 4 or 5 years, right? It's not established enough for us to deal with the problems of a future artist generation of how do I fit into the marketplace of something that requires minting, you know. But it's also both both of these are drawing on the famous philosophical saying, "I think, therefore I am," right? Um, in Barbara Kruger's work, it's a critique on consumerist culture completely, right? I shop, therefore I am. I base my whole existence on the materialistic objects which I use my earned money through my labor for. And it's sort of now been digitized and revolutionized for the digital world, where now I use all my hard-earned money and view my world through the lens of my digital consumeristic behavior, right? I mint, therefore I am. I'm buying these mints. It's actually pretty interesting. Um, to mint or not to mint, Shakespeare, to be or not to be. It's again, it's these. I really like these because this and the work before, sort of informs you of the mind state of the artist compared to when they're there. Right? Because here it's hesitation. It's like I meant, therefore I am. I base my existence on it. Here is do I go ahead and do this thing? And it's um, choosing what to mint is a hard question, right? As artist, I can tell you I have files. I have many files that I would love to put up for sale, right? But there's no it having no guarantee of selling um, brings questions of should I mint it or not, right? And then so this work directly addresses that, and then he answers it right here. When in doubt, mint it. You know, I personally see no problem with if you're in doubt, just mint it. It won't hurt. For this, overcome personally, there's a little bit of disconnect between the message and the image, um, sort of. And I say that just because if you don't read this, right, you would assume that this is a message, this is sort of oriented towards overcoming, um, capitalistic notions and stuff like that, right? To overcome the market, and immediately I would read it as such because of vaporwave, the vaporwave, the vaporwave theme also, right? Because vaporwave loves to use a lot of consumeristic culture, right? Mall, McDonald's stuff, but McDonald's images, Windows 94, you know, um, Pringles, but the deeper you look into it, the heavier it's evolved um, into critiquing its own consumerist culture, right? Some vaporwave stuff uses um, McDonald images in such a way to critique the existence of McDonald's now. The implication of suicide being the alternative to minting in the Shakespeare reference is all you curious, though probably not intended. I mean, in it's it is not intended, but it's actually important that you bring that up because um, a lot of in a lot of talks in the art world, you hear about certain moves are career suicide, right? And we're also if if what everybody says about this space is true, and that NFTs are going to completely leave every facet of our economy and our life completely changed from our art to us buying tickets, then to mint or not to mint becomes a question of also professional suicide, sort of, right? For a certain point. I'm not saying it's going to be forever because as all of us continue to flood to digital work and to digital minting, and that becomes the mainstream, a niche will also grow to for non-minted works, like purely traditional destructive works. I know this. It would be like I don't want to say dumb, but it wouldn't be fully thought out to assume that that niche wouldn't exist when that niche has come up in every facet of media so far, right? Now, like vinyls are coming back, cassettes are coming back, and they command more prices than they did back then just because of their, you know, built around vintage nostalgia-based stuff. The context of it is plainly having to decide whether or not to commit to that or not to be. Okay. Hmm. Well, hmm. I mean, again, you could be right, Metakey. It could just probably it could be probably not intended. Um, I haven't read a lot of Shakespeare. Um, my English classes preferred 1984. I can't help but feel that like some of these artists are making these more iconic cultural references are only sitting on the surface. So here, I I would agree. I happen to agree with you, um, but I think that this work sort of needs to be on sort of the surface level as it is, because in the same sense that we're getting really strong um, heavy consumeristic critiquing works, if I can find it, this was where it started, right? It has to start somewhere. And looking in my art history classes, I noticed one thing that's present in almost every art cycle, and it's you sort of you can't be the biggest rule breaker, right? You can't break all the rules. You have to break some, and you have to be loud about it. But you have to specifically choose which ones, and you have to keep in mind while you're doing these rules which foundation you're building for artists, right? And so this work is as simple as it is, but because of its simplicity, it did two things, right? It already broke people's notion that work needs to be as complex as it is, right? This is also coming after a huge push of like Pollock's and like a lot of abstract works, but still, people are oriented towards paint and drawing, and there's this still heavy divide between photography in general. There still is in the fine art world. It's just hidden, right? But this essentially set the the foundation for. And I hate to use Jeff Koons because I hate Koons's work. Um, I really hate Koons's work, but because it sort of does the opposite. It uses the capitalistic culture to get. It sort of like uses capitalistic culture to be like, I'm critiquing it, but it also hopes that it gets sold by it, and sometimes it comes across as bougie, as pseudo intellectual. That's the problem. That's also the problem. Some work really has the ability to do that, and this is one of them. Koons's work, personally, I think Koons's work is so pseudo intellectual. I compare it to Damien Hirst's work, pseudo intellectual at best, and then so for something like this, it's it sort of fits an overall a present theme, right, of this capitalistic notion of people dealing of, do I deal with the market, do I have to do it, could it be deeper? Absolutely. Well, I in something like that I agree with, and that becomes sort of clear, and I mean no ill will towards JR Art Space, but that sort of becomes clear here because the work is celebrating something, but if you didn't know what the work was celebrating, it sends you a completely different message. That kind of work is really, and that kind of work is really transparent to crypto nerds, given that the whole space is arguably a reaction against that voodoo crap. I agree. Um, Personally, out of all these works, this is the most successful, um, because of its clear art historical reference. Um, well, in a case like this, we'll have to see, because something like this, even in the digital space and in this space, we're gonna have to traverse new forms of artwork coming up that we haven't seen before, right? This is not an example because these are obviously completely different than these, and they send a completely different message than this, right? And so I'll separate these, but you Metakey, you are right, like in the sense of it is a surface work, right? It doesn't scratch too heavily. um, Personally, I don't read it as bougie too much. um, but I can see how it can be read as bougie. I'm trying to find another. Let's see if there's another work. So hmm. Well, I should make it clear that this is my call. My opinions are my own, of course. Well, hello, Michael. Oh. That's fine. I mean, no hard feelings here. It's not a bad work. It's there are far worse works out there. I if I were to compare this to this work is obviously far better executed than something like this. Um, it's okay. No worries. Um, I can tell you how this was made. This is very simple. This is just a light shader and a textured room, right? So something like this, yeah. Um, this is sort of okay in a case, and I'll say this, like, this sort of applies to new work in general. In new movements, you sort of have to wait it out a little bit to sort of see if it's gonna be bougie or if it's not, right? Because I can claim personally that Kunz is bougie and pseudo intellectual because the guy has produced enough work, and I've seen enough of his work evolved through the years to be like, okay, you actually don't care, you know, stuff like this. Like, people love it, but I see it and I'm like, you know, what, what, right? And so this work aims supposedly, right, is sort of aiming to do the same thing this work is doing, right, which is commenting specifically this is like the popular culture, the idealization, you know, how I base my existence. Oh, his stuff is crap. I agree. um Half of my art history professors would love you right now, Michael, and the other half would have an aneurysm. Immediately be like, oh my god, what did you say? But so in the case of this, I think I Meant Therefore I Am is pretty successful. Um, I really wish he had just quoted or had given any sort of uh, reference to something like this, because it's not that different. The message is completely different and it's revolutionized for the current times, but still, it's when it's something like this specifically for an artist like Barbara Kruger, who arrived and her work focuses on some feminist themes, right? Who An artist who was present through times where her work, I guarantee you, was snubbed. I'll fight the other half of them on my own. Hey, all right, cool. All right, I'll go pick my fight with Pollock fans and Hearst fans. um, right, but back to this. Like, Barbara Kruger as an artist, like, we've hit a level in the art world where if you are gonna sort of use something so close to the original source, and if it's gonna end up being an important female figure in art history, you sort of have to quote it, because otherwise you're falling into the same big mistakes that a big art movement and a lot of art has now evolved to sort of try to avoid. But other than that, it's still a very successful work. I like it. Um, Again, with something like this, there is just a disconnect between Overcome and the message here, because one is talking about overcoming struggles as an artist, but this one can to me reads as overcome, capitalistic notions, or it can also read as what is it? Satirical propaganda, capitalist propagandist work, sort of, where it's like it's not hard for us to find brands that are essentially, using overcome your struggles to be with us, and so that difference in message sort of hurts the work a little bit. But other than that, it's still pretty good. Um, I hope that JR Art Space delves deeper into these themes, because they deserve to be delved deeper into. I really think so. Um, Works like this, like a work like that, may be simple, but its art historical implications and its actual implications at the time are insane. Um, Legitimately, people were in uproar about stuff like this, and so, but yeah, onwards to Jamie Musings. So I've seen Jamie's work before. He's posted in our um, art channel, and I believe somebody. Let me check real quick. Somebody actually bought some of his work. If it's is it Blockjack or um, it is, well, it was, oh, Geek Gambit. So Geek Gambit is an owner, I think, of two of these or one of these. Um, but so I believe Jamie wants us to. Well, I'll specifically focus on these. Um, actually, I like that. And this. And so immediately off the bat, it's very clear it's abstract works, um, because we have we have the pleasure of actually having the artist in here. Um, we do get some context. I'll try to find it. Posting here. I've been doing one piece a day for almost 30 days and would love more of your opinions on it. And I think some of these works are an exploration in abstraction and color. And I had told this to Jamie before, um, but like just like what is it? Main objects work. Not evident as much here, but in these, there is a really nice sense of movement within the work, and a really nice sense of depth paired with that as well. Um, I literally told him in chat, I told him I could see these just being animated, sort of flowing, like particle vibes, because that's exactly what it looks like. Um, you know, they very simple, like just very, I wouldn't pastel-y, you know, not, I wouldn't say muted colors, but not too vibrant colors, you know, and so nothing is too distracting, nothing is too bold for your eye that it feels like it's actually bright, you know, because if sometimes you look at a work and, you know, even though there is no light shining at you, the vibrance of the color that they chose just sometimes feels as if it's blinding, you know, and that doesn't happen here. It sort of, well, it doesn't happen here, but as you can see here, like this feels so white, like so bright, sorry, compared to just the difference and smoothness of these, right? But these look very nice. um, I agree with you, King Jesus, these are amazing. um, Personally, I prefer these a little bit more than these. Well, these two are too separate than these, just because a sense of depth, a sense of protruding depth is far more clear. Like either going away or coming closer is far more clear in something like this than here. Um, so, but also this looks like it is digitally painted. It's digital work. This looks like the way digital paint sort of blends, because uh, if you if you're a digital artist, you realize the way you blend sometimes is through a blur brush and that sort of thing. And so you learn to recognize the look of digital paint, but it doesn't deter from it at all. Um, Funny enough, some of this stuff implies texture and communicates texture relatively well. This communicates depth and texture very well, especially because it's like the box aids it really well, right? Because of these cutoff points, they're setting off an entry point for the light, for the colors, and so it really aids with the space and also the scale. But these are very nice. This, it's not as on. If I'm being fully honest, it's not as successful as these two. I think these are extremely successful works. Extremely compared to something like this. And I think, funny enough, I think it's might be because it's a little bit too complex compared to this, right? There's too much happening, too many lines, um, and too many layers. Personally, this is my own opinion, right? But something like this, it just flows so nice that if you want to communicate a shape, right? Either intentionally or unintentionally, a shape has been communicated here. I see some sort of thing here, right? And this is a really nice use of negative space, because the absence of the color draws you in, but also in this reverse way, it keeps your eye away from it, right? You focus on it, okay, black spot, and then as you start to move around, your eye doesn't go into the black, it just moves around, right? And you can really loop into the work and not it's very nice. Um, this too, this is, I have no other words other than colorful bliss. Um, Legitimately, it's just the gradients, how smooth they are. Some of them resemble God rays or light rays, if you know what I'm talking about. They're just when clouds and the sun shines through the clouds and you literally see the rays of light. Um, that's what I'm getting right here. Um, so, for me, for this sort of to be as successful as these, personally, I would think is just there either needs to be a little bit more variation in strokes or just a clearer sense of depth and movement, because so far when you look at this in comparison to this here, the blocks take the background, right? They're not evident as much, right? I'm not focusing on square. Oh, and I just noticed, you see this little difference here? They're not symmetrical, but my eye didn't even notice that because of how smooth it is. And these are opposites too. I even notice at all, right? This is what I mean. Like, this is so far more successful in this. Like, some stuff you won't notice until you look at it more. Like, oh wow, right? And so the difference there. I have a lot of work to do. I look forward to practicing more tonight. Well, thank you for joining, King James. Good luck with your work, and share some of your practice in our art chat, in our art channel. Well, be cool to look at. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. But back to this, like these. Again, you can just keep discovering little subtle variations of color, right? And then this, because of how harsh these blocks are, it just takes you out of it completely. Um, if there was a way to sort of emulate depth with these, and then have them flow very nicely together and blend subtly at least, or like appear subtly and not as harsh as they are, the work would be a little bit successful. Same here. Um, this I really think is just the pattern. The choice for this is not a success. So that's not saying it's a fully bad work. No, it's a good work. It's still colorful. It's still nice. It's still smooth gradients, but compared to something like that. Oh, okay, all right. My bad, King James. My bad. Don't dunk on me. I'm sorry. Hey, top chat joke. It's the only way I can deal with the pain. But yeah, these are so different though. Wildly different. Wow. I really like this. It just looks like it's a nice. I honestly really like this, just plainly for the aesthetics. I think it's a very visually like a nice, a pleasing aesthetic, uh, nicely made. Like the color choice, the color palette choice is nice. It's I keep saying nice a lot. Like the color palette choices, it's not too harsh, right? There's not a lot of variation. You're getting um, a nice mixture of cool tones and warm tones. That's what I mean by warm tones, is the red, the yellow, and the brown. The cool tones are the white, the light blue, and the deep blue. And they sort of mix very well together, right? You're not getting, and then there's an orange, pink, salmon pinkish tone, right? And then they're not, the warm tones are not too close together. Like, they're not all grouped up in one group, and then the warm tones are all grouped up in one group, where there's a clear visual separation and colors. No, they're pretty mixed together. That I just like this for its just look, you know. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you can literally like abstract work just because of the way it looks and nothing else. You know, this is just visually pleasing to look at, honestly. Um, Nothing more. Um, I really like this. Um, oh, so it's inspired by recent art blocks. That's about it. That's actually really nice. Like I could see this just being a poster somewhere, just like as a pleasant, eye relaxer. This though, funny enough, it's so wildly different from the others that this feels like it's some sort of video game level. I think it's because clearly we see complete manipulation of depth, and there is clear information, right? That this is going at a certain angle up. There's like clear information of 3D, I guess, location, facing, sides. I don't, it just, you can tell this is something that's sort of, you can grab, it's got volume to it, you know. It's also got volume to it because it's aided by the different shading going in different directions. It's when they're so opposite, it immediately tells you, oh, different side. But in stuff like this, I think, in the sense of Jamie like pushing his art. Yeah, see, vibrant escape, right? And so this seems some sort of three-dimensional, violent or vibrant, not violent. Um, it's, I mean, so this has the theme of escaping, right? Escapism in it, but it is sort of an exploration. But it's good. I mean, I still really really like these. I really really like these compared to everything else. And I apologize, Jamie, if we didn't look at everything, but man, I legitimately think, and it's like, again, like he says, right? These are for these are his experimentations, and I really do think these are the most successful experimentations. Also, something like this. Um, Here, let's scroll quickly. This is a nice experimentation, actually, in perspective. Um, Whoa. Yeah, so the subtle changes, it's aesthetically pleasing. Um, Another exploration in perspective. So right, like so it's clear. Um, this is not, like, I don't want to call it serious work. It's serious studies, right? But it's not an official finalized work, right? These are explorations. But the good thing is you can literally see like the explorations are yielding results in color choice, right? I feel safe to say that Jamie's personally, like, you're starting to see a little bit more of these pastelly, smooth gradients pop up, here, and then they're extremely successful here. But yeah, Jamie, if you're listening, these are fire. These are oh, I really mean this. These are amazing. I gotta sign in. Never mind. To the next artist, and so we got linked. Joshua Chaplin. Hey there. This is my latest piece collection, dropping back in March. It was a soundtrack. Include collab with the sound artist, so don't forget to turn the volume up. Alright. I also realized, since we listened to that audio thing, I haven't had any music playing at all. Here, let's listen to the audio. Okay. So we caught it at the end, which is, okay. So it's sort of like photogrammetry dots. That's what it reminds me of. Sort of the photogrammetry dots that are used. Oh, okay. A being of light. and some glitches. Oh, hmm, hmm. Okay, and you got planets on top. So the audio you're hearing. All right, here. Let's before I say anything, we'll read. Memories to the machine in our pursuit of ascension will meaning cease to manifest our wisdom from the ages. Be mere architectural ruins in the coming age of cold logic and computational precision. We must not lose what it means to be human. These early stages show these early stages show signs that the human condition is already beginning to. Ah. Um. Oh, here. And so, okay. So when I said photogrammetry dots, I was sort of close, I'd imagine, because it is giving the illusion of technology, right? And computers, and then with the glitching also informs you of that, and then you have a being, but a being of light. It's actually so. It's what's also interesting about this is that everything you're seeing is that's commenting on how humans are sort of losing what it means to be human is still done through digital means, right? This is still a particle. Um, it's it looked like a particle effect that we've all seen, right? Um, I guarantee all of us have seen this visual before. And so it does very well in communicating the technological advancement sense, um, and then as well as the nature sense. I do have to be honest though, it does feel a little bit on the nose, you know, in the sense that it's just in like not to say that it's a bad work, but the use of the figure in the middle, depicted specifically in the middle, right, and then a figure of light, right, which is supposed to either aim ascension or deity or some sort of stronger being, right, has been personally has been used a little bit too much, right? Everything else sort of succeeds. Like I would say honestly, the biggest deterrent from the work is the figure, if that makes sense. You know, because everything else is clear about technology and and how it connects with nature. Specifically in this part with the particles coming up and the planets, right? We literally see this sort of scene get built. Here, I'll mute it, but right, this is the trees. This is where the tree's gonna be, and so the only thing I would say is just the figure is just it's a little bit too on the nose to have the figure there as the reminder of or as the commentary on what it means to be human, right? Because the commentary itself is already strong. It's already strong, right? Because the moment you try to comment on humanity not being in touch with itself or with nature and such, and you use something like a 3D rendering, you've already immediately introduced that theme and that conversation in your work, even if you're not aware of it, right? The simple fact that you as an artist are going in to digitally recreate nature, right, for the sake of reminding you of like what nature is or commenting on nature, like alone informs the subject of what you're talking about, right? The simple fact that you didn't go out and take a video, but you chose to render it, immediately connects the work to these early stages, show signs that human condition is already beginning to lose what it means to be human, because if I'm able to like combine it together, right? These signs include creating homages to nature through digital means instead of going out to nature. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. And so the work is so strong in that it really doesn't need this guy. It this guy could be out of it, and the work communicates everything completely perfectly. So that's about it. Um, I'll look at the other works. LSD, landscape sculpture, composite. So that's sort of like the sort of, I would say, like, it reminds me of photogrammetry does. If you used photogrammetry software, just it takes all your photos and then just puts little dots where it thinks things are. Um, but it looks very nice. Future environments built upon small packages of data forming vectors of integrity. Um, so these are very nice. Again, to me personally, unless I knew, unless this was a specific location that, well, here's something that artists don't do a lot of, but should do. Um, -4 3 point. Well, here, I'll do this, do that. Here. If this is actually like a wild thing, I'm gonna be so happy. Okay, so 7 3 5 4 7 0 1 7 0 point 1 0 1 0 7 4. Oh, and so I guess that's the rock formation that's there. Uh, it's that. What? Where did it take me? Oh, okay, yeah, no. I guess this might be the location. Um, so that's a little bit of a cool factor of the work. Personally, if what I would have preferred to see personally is, or like would have been an additive, is if this sort of was important to the creator, right? If this was like sort of the mountains that they traversed when they're going home with their dad as a young child, for example, or this is where I had my best vacation. It's stuff like that, you know, sort of can strengthen the work. But otherwise, aesthetically, it's a nice work. It can be a nice poster just to be hanging out and just to visually appreciate. Um, I'm curious about Creator. Whoa. Here, we'll put on the. Shouldn't be too loud, but. And so this work does a few things. There's a subtle figure right here. Two, actually. 3. 1 2 3. Creator. 4. Anybody else? No. And so if I am, the origins are revealed. And so if I am correct, this is the work leading up to this work, right? And so this tells us that this is the creator of sort of, personally, my reading into the work is this informs me that this is the creator of the digital realm, or the realm we're messing with. And then here he is, right? And so he appears in multiple areas on top of the tree, right? And he appears in sort of planet formation 1 2 3 here, right? But I can't believe they don't have a video player so I can zoom in. Like, go back. What the hell? It's 2021. Literally, it's 2021. All right, but see this? So there, and that's the creator. So it's more of a setup work. There isn't really a lot of information, but it does imply the use of, or the notion of, data and particles and technology very well. Also, That's one thing people forget that. Well, that looks like more of it's a hooded figure, but figures that sort of aren't that appear specifically in 3D renders, right? Should every piece of art need to tell a story? No, no, it shouldn't. Um, Not really. You know, I was literally just saying like this. I like me personally. I prefer art that tells a story, but also there is there is good art just for like viewing pleasures, right? Like to me, you know, personally, because I like the look of photogrammetry stuff and data models and all that stuff, and I play video games, right? And we see this sort of thing in video games all the time. I have no problem looking at this, right? So this is a nice, um, well executed work, right? Um, but you know, should every work? No, no way. If you do that, you're gonna run out of stories, or you're gonna end up reusing the same stories over and over again, right? But you know, and it's like I like my personal belief is there are certain stories that keep coming back in your head, and certain figures that will keep coming back up in your head, and then you'll somehow, some way, they'll find a way into your work. Um, and then, because keep in mind, an artist, you shouldn't really lock yourself down to one thing, right? You should always explore. Like that's really one good thing about what um, Jamie's doing is he's just exploring different styles, right? None of this stuff. Well, here I'll go to his created. Um, right? Like none of this stuff could have any meaning whatsoever, and some of it could have your own implied meaning, right? But still, this is I really like this because of its just visual aesthetic. That's it. I don't care if there's a story behind it. I don't. You know, it's just pleasing. You know, it's like those oddly satisfying video. It's very oddly satisfying. You know, and then you can find work that is just satisfying for just visual satisfying sake, and that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, that's one thing Art University tries and hates is people loving to draw beautiful pictures for the sake of drawing beautiful pictures. But you know, if you want to do that, do it. 110% do it. You know, you shouldn't really do what you want. You know, it's and if you really think an art piece should have a story, then do it. You know, and it's like sometimes I'll be making a work and I'll be messing with something, and then only the idea will come out after, or I'll have an idea for work and then I'll look at it and be like, nah, I'll just move the idea to another work, you know, or the story to another work. So that happens, you know. But in something like this, there is a clear story happening, right? The creator is established, right, and then you have the creator appearing, so it's pretty nice. Um, I guess we'll just have to wait and see where this work goes, but it's pretty good actually. Again, my only thing for something like this is you really don't need the figure in the middle at all. The figure to me deters from there. Other than that, I don't, and I would also say just change the way this looks a little bit because all of us. I mean, I'm not talking like this is a generalization, of course, but all of us have seen that sort of similar particle thing in like either like commercials or ads or on YouTube, you know, and so a little bit of variation, but other than that, it's amazing, you know, and then just the figure really does not need to be there. The work is personally is stronger with just this, right? Because because now we know this is the creator, right? You don't need the figure to remind you. You already know the digital creator entity, sort of. But yeah, and so this was the last work shared before I told people to share more, and so we'll see what work we have received. So, yo, King Jesus, it's yours. Let's go look at your work. Unrarable. Let's go. Do I have to sign in? I'm not gonna. Alright. We're just gonna give it time to load. Oh, it's variable. Okay. 1 second. Alright. Oh! Mimic. What does that mean? Dragon. Is it a Dragon Ball Z reference? Jesus? I just name dropping Jesus like it's fine. Because if it is, it's actually communicating the sort of power of well, here, I'll wait till you answer. I'm actually just gonna new tab. Whoa. Okay, variable. Okay, alright, cool. Listen, I grew up on Dragon Ball Z in Arabic, so I don't even know half of these names. Um and so actually okay, alright. So now that we know it's a Dragon Ball Z reference, it's actually pretty fun. Um this well, here, we'll reset this. So this already informs you of like, you know, the Super Saiyan mode. I don't know what you call it really. Frieza blew a hole through the planet and exploded it. Ah, okay. Alright, cool. Ah, so this the planet is exploded, is down. Goodbye, planetary beings. It's actually, man. So this is very hard to pull off for artists, right? To make a sort of 3D looking thing with 2D, just because they're so stylistically different, and they appear so stylistically different than when you put them next to each other. They pop up. Oh, okay. Alright, it was when Goku first went Super Saiyan. Men's punched a hole through the planet? Or wait, did he go Super Saiyan in reaction to a dude punching a hole through his planet? I actually don't remember. But it's actually really nice. I really like the layering that you have going on, because it communicates a form of depth, you know. And I really like it. Wow, these are nice. These are very nice. And then opacity, little man. Jesus, this is actually pretty effective at communicating. I mean, now that I know what Namek is, so number one, this is a very I don't know how specific of a reference this is to everybody who hasn't watched Dragon Ball Z, and so I'll give you like what I think about it from the basis of as if only Dragon Ball Z fans know what an Namek did, you know, right? And so essentially, like this work, other than it being oriented towards a specific niche, right, like the Dragon Ball Z fans, it's actually pretty successful, right? Because of two things, right? You didn't set up space vibes or anything. You didn't tie yourself to realism or one stylistic approach, right? And that essentially allows you to mix this little sort of like bold brush, you know. What was heckin'? I mean, I grew up on. I actually don't know what I grew up on is. Hold on, Captain. That's what it used to be called in Arabic. I grew up on this fucking thing when I was a kid. So I know all this stuff about this dude, sort of. I know he kicks a ball for like 3 seasons long every episode, but you know. But it's actually, you know, for the specific niche that you're sort of approaching. Like this work is actually, I would consider it to be successful, right? You're not tying yourself to a 3D render, and you're not tying yourself to a 2D poppy render, and you're also not tying yourself to full space depictions, right? So it gives you enough room to play where you're able to include these little streaks and dots, and they read as like energy, you know, from a punch, you know, and the white reads as like the explosion from this hole, right? Now, if I was a person who didn't know anything about Dragon Ball Z, my first impression would be energy coming out, right? Because this very well and very effectively communicates a burst of energy or some form of energy, right? Um, I I can draw you many comparisons, right? If you go to the ancient ancient Egyptian sun, the way they depicted their rays, right, is through lines, right? Circle, sun in the corner of the page, and we would always draw the lines, you know, always, because it's very simple and it's very clear at communicating movement, energy, some sort of something, and so I really think this work is actually pretty successful. Um, I I also like the difference of tone here. It's a nice little visual break. Okay, it's a nice little visual break. The one thing I would tell you, Black Jesus, what? Oh wow, I think where did I hear that? I think I heard that in a movie somewhere. Sorry, King Jesus is the sharpness. You see the difference between how sharp these and this is? That would be my only addition. Um, just because there is an a clear visual difference immediately right off the talk, right off the bat, that it just um, I can see the pixelation begin here. But other than that, it's pretty good, right? So in something like this, you just get a higher quality PNG, um, and then that solves that. I also, dude, these are very nice. A lot of people um, underestimate the power of overlaying textures on top of each other that have some sort of transparency, but you really get these, right? For example, if I were to say, well, how do I zoom in? There we go. Zoom out. Sorry. If I were to say you were to put this whole black thing on top of it and just leave the circle out, it would still inform you of the energy burst sort of thing pretty well, right? And so, um, but other than that, man, like this actually very well. I can also, funny enough, if your work is done in separate layers, I can see these rotating and movement because of how simplistic it is. It also gives off a nice sense of movement. This work is aided by the circle, right? And these just create a nice eye tracker for your eye, right? And then you can just pick one and go in, and then that's the center, right? You don't have anything leading out that will send you out of the picture, right? Everything is pretty well contained, and then once you're in here, you're sort of locked. Your eye is sort of locked until you decide, okay, cool, I'm gonna actively look away across the black, And so, man, legitimately, I literally just turned around and looked at my screen. I'm still practicing how to move into my art. Man, um, I don't know what program you're using, but if it's Photoshop, I know they have a really nice keyframe, and I think iPad Pros, if you're using an iPad Pro, they have a nice animation keyframe thing, not keyframe, frames option. And so I would love to move into this. Another tip for you, you might not even, if you work in layers, you might just see if the program you work with has frame option, right, to create animation, and then select the blue layers and just rotate them frame by frame, and just do that along with the white, and just see how that looks over like 12 frames. Because that's the thing, like a lot of us think animation and moving art can be pretty hard and you need to redraw, but again, like a simple switch in image, it already informs you of animation. When I was a kid, I used to read those like Captain Underpants books, and at the end, right, they had those pages that if you flipped really fast, you would sort of see the character move. And so you really don't need to, again, you can just literally just rotate this one more, right, frame, next frame, rotate it a little bit, and then done. But other than that, man, it's pretty successful. It's very good work. I look forward to seeing more. It does. Okay, there you go. There you go. Try it. Um, And even then, like if it's like if you see it's like fucking up or anything, just export multiple PNGs with just different rotations and just combine them all in like an editing program, um, and you're good, you know. And then if you have Photoshop and all that jazz, it reads layers and stuff. So, but yeah, um, let's see if we got any more. No, I believe that is it for our art critique. All right. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right. Cool. Well, thank you guys to those who have joined us and chatted. Thank you to Michael and King Jesus for chatting with me today. Um, I appreciate you guys being here, and yo, King Jesus, keep making art, keep practicing. Your stuff's good. Um, next Sunday is gonna be a stream where we try to look through Hiket Nunk's interactive NFTs and also Async Arts interactive NFTs. I really think that's a hidden little part of NFT world that a lot of people don't know about. And then the week after that, another art critique. And so um, there will be another chance for you guys, King Jesus, if you want to submit more work, or for those listening later on to submit work for that stream. But yo, thank you guys for coming, and really looked at some great art today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Um, and I will catch you guys later. You guys have a good one.